How's it going, everybody? This is Dan, and this is another episode of Stories with Dan. This is episode 7. Today, I'm going to be telling you a story, pretty much when I drove to Texas this last December for Christmas. Some crazy stuff happened, as you can tell from the title. I saved 2 dogs from the highway. Now, they're not the kind of highway you'd think where there's millions of cars and, running out into it would be impossible. More countryside freeway, 2 lanes. Middle of nowhere. Yeah, so here we go. Let's get into it. Pretty much last December, I was driving over to Texas, pretty much to visit my sister and her husband for Christmas and some other family over there. And pretty much I had driven to Phoenix the first day, and then from Phoenix, I was driving all the way to Austin. So that was almost like 14 hours. I drove through El Paso, very weird city. Super close to the border, so it's literally almost feels like you're in a different country. This the way the vibe and everything feels because it's so close to the border, so it has a lot of Mexican influence and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, once I got past Phoenix, I was driving for a little while. There is a random border check thing. It's not even like the border, it's just like a random stop in the middle of nowhere. So I assume it's kind of like to get people who cross the border who think they're in the clear, and once they get there, they could possibly get caught. Anyways, get there, get through that, no big deal. Keep driving. Very dark, very middle of nowhere, West Texas, so there's very little stuff going on. I got to this one little town. I filled up gas, and then pretty much that was the last town I was pretty much going to be seeing for quite a while until I got closer to Austin. And I started driving, and it's this long, narrow road. Bunch of deer, so many deer on the road. I counted at least like 50 from the ones that were just standing off to the side. As you drive by your lights, you could just see them for like a quick second. But also a sad notice, there is a lot of blood on the road from people hitting these deers because there's so many of them. And you do come across some deer bodies, unfortunately. So now, how that ties into the story is I'm driving down this road. The speed limits are about 80 miles an hour on the freeway, highway type thing that they have set up there. So I'm driving along. Once in a while, there's a deer that runs out in front of you. You gotta be prepared for these deer because, hitting a deer, it could literally come through your windshield and kill you if it was just like the perfect scenario. So they're very dangerous, just like anything you could hit. But as I'm driving along, all of a sudden, boom, this white object, smaller than a deer, just darts in front of my truck, and it got past me just in time, and I slowed down a little bit, and I still went past it. I was like, was that a dog? And I look in my rearview mirror, and I see this dog like running around on the road. I was like, holy crap, I should stop. Now where I stopped, there's this one big house with a super long driveway, fence right in the middle. You can kind of see the house, but there's no way to like go up to the house. A little ways down, there's kind of like a smaller RV type setup of a house, more of like a portable rig, like you'd see at a school. And then also to the left of the road, I don't really know the direction how to explain it, but to the other side, there's like another smaller house, more of a farmhouse, nothing too crazy, kind of old, but an actual house, not like the portable home on the other side. Anyways, I get out of my car and I'm looking around. I'm trying to get this dog to come over to me because it's like, the reason I was like, I don't want to hit a dog. It's also a Christmas Eve. I don't want to hit a dog. No one wants to wake up to their dog not being alive. And second, this dog could cause a major accident to someone else and kill an actual person. Like if I were to try to avoid that dog, I could have lost control of my car or anything like that. So to me, I'm thinking I really need to get this dog somewhere. I need to get this dog to me and try to figure out, because I had a caller on, so I figured if I could call the tag, maybe I can get a hold of these people. But it's also 2 a.m, so very late at night. It's also Christmas Eve. It's also Texas, so walking up to any doors is probably not a smart idea, as most people carry guns there, especially in the countryside and on farms and all that. So anyways, as I pull over, one of the houses that I mentioned earlier has this big gate, and they have these big ostriches up along the fence. And so the dog was kind of running back and forth with this ostrich, playing with this ostrich in the middle of the night. And then all of a sudden, another dog comes out of nowhere, and they're both like an Australian cattle dog type breed. The white one was kind of more of a mix of a mutt kind of thing, but there's this black. If you've seen an Australian cattle dog, they have the blue coat, so it's like the black and gray. That's kind of what the other dog looked like, and that one was super friendly. Came up to me almost right away, rolled on its back. I was petting its belly and all that stuff. So I'm still trying to I'm standing in the middle of the road, which is probably not smart, but there's not a lot of people coming around, and I'm trying to get these dogs together. Eventually, I see this car coming down the road, and I'm like, shit. So I'm like waving it down. The guy stops. It's more of a newer car, kind of like a Ford, like Explorer kind of thing, some type of newer Ford. And I went up to him like, hey man, I'm like, do you know whose dogs these are? He's like, they're not mine. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, dude, clearly they're not yours, but I'm asking you to I'm pretty much asking like, oh, can you help me out? Try to tackle these dogs. And I'm like, yeah, they're running out in the middle of the road. I don't know who they are. He's like, me neither. And it's like, I know you don't know who they are. Like, he's just giving me these like ridiculous answers. So I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just making sure you don't hit them. And he's like, all right. And he pretty much rolls up his window and just continues on his way. So now I'm back alone, and I'm just trying to think, all right, what can I do? And these dogs are really hard to corral in, like trying to get their trust and everything as a random person. So eventually, I do get the dogs into my truck. It took a little while, but I finally was able to get them in the truck. And at one point, I had one dog in there, like the hardest one to get in there, which was like the white one, who was the most untrustworthy one. And then the one with the black and gray fur had a collar on, so I was able to like look at a number. But the number was only to a local vet. It wasn't to the people that own the dog. So as I was putting the black and white one into the back of my truck, I have a snug top, and I also have my own dog in the front of my car, but she's a really small dog, and she's just sitting up in her bed that's up there. So that really wasn't an issue. She was just kind of barking. But yeah, so when I was putting the black and white one in, the white one jumps out of the car through the little window gap and the tailgate and all that. So then I had to collect that one again, finally get them both in the car. I'm like, all right, what should I do? And they kind of had ran over to the one farmish house that didn't have a gate in front of it. And so I figured, oh, maybe that's where they live. But there really wasn't any lights on. It's very small, didn't look very maintained at all. So I don't even know if someone actually lives there. Anyways, I did one thing that probably was a bad idea, but nothing even happened anyways. But I knocked on the door. Just, I knocked, and I stood there and waited. I did it 2 times, no answer. So I figured, okay, let's not push our luck there. Someone could be walking around the side of the house right now with a gun, and I'll be fucking dead or something, because it's 2 a.m. Who comes to your door at 2 a.m? No one. You would never answer your door at that time. Anyways, so I kind of pull off to the side. I'm looking around to see like where they may have came from, but there's really no way of like figuring that out. So I call my sister, who obviously has been living in Texas a few years. Maybe she has an idea. Call her, let her know the situation. She says, all right, give me a second. I'll try to find the sheriff department number for that area. Not the 911, but like the sheriff department. Anyway, she sends me the number. I call them. And the lady picks up. I'm like, yeah, I'm over here at this point. And I think my sister had called and kind of explained it already. I'm like, yeah, I have these 2 dogs. They're running around on the freeway, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, okay, where are you? And I was about like 10 minutes out of their jurisdiction of where they could send like animal control to come pick them up. And then she pretty much went off to explain, oh yeah, I know they're beautiful animals and stuff and all that, but just put them back on the road. They'll find their way home. People do this all the time. And I was just like, no, I'm in my head. I'm like, I'm not putting these dogs back on the road. 1, they can get killed themselves. 2, they could cause an accident that kills someone else. And I'm pretty sure the motto for cops is protect and serve. And so that's kind of part of the protect and serve. And I was like, all right, fine. I will drive. Like, where can I meet you? I'm not far from like your area. I can drive and make up the distance that you guys aren't allowed to go. And she's like, all right, well, meet me at this the Italian Liquor. It's something like that, some random name. I'm like, all right. Literally drive 10 minutes, maybe 5. So you guys couldn't drive 10 or 5 minutes like a little further out to come pick me up, like the animal control guy. Anyways, pull up to this little gas station, and now there are these guys who are like construction workers, and they're working at night. And so they have a few trucks parked there with this little logo on it, and they're working on some pipe or plumbing or something random. And I'm just sitting there. They're kind of looking at me because they don't know what I'm doing there. I'm also in a white truck, so maybe I look like a worker pulling up or something. But I'm sitting there. I call the police station back. I'm like, yes, I'm at the location, and what's the estimated time? It's like, oh, well, it's going to be a little while. He has to go pick up the cages and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, well, what's a little while? Like, how long's a little while? She's like, I don't know. I'll call you back and let you know. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just have to wait for that. Anyways, finally, and then a few minutes later, a dude pulls up alongside me, has the same logo and stuff as these other workers do. And I figured, oh, he must be like he was staring at me and I didn't really know. I thought maybe he was staring at me like, why are you parked right here? We're trying to do work right now. But he got out, and if you've ever seen Men in Black, the first one, and you've seen that like farmer that like gets taken over by the alien, like the body or whatever, like that's literally what this guy looked like. And then he had a cigarette in his mouth that was like one of the longest cigarettes I've ever seen. It was almost like the length of a pen, like a Bic pen. It was like almost the length of one of those. And I was like, wow, I've never seen a cigarette that long. Anyways, I rolled down my window. Literally, this is the first like super Texas person I ran into there, pretty much. And he has a cigarette in his mouth. He has a somewhat lazy left eye, so it's kind of drooping a little than the other one. A bunch of chins stacked up on each other. He's just like, you the one with the dogs? And I was just like, oh my God, this is the most Texas guy. It literally sounded just like the voice I did. You the one with the dogs? And I was like, yeah, I'm the one. He's like, is that it? And he pointed to my little miniature schnauzer. I was like, no, that's not it. And he's like, I'm like, no, they're in the back. He's like, do they bite? And I was like, no, they don't bite. They're fine. Like, I got him in my car. He's like, all right. And I got out of my car, went to the back, opened the tailgate. He just grabs the one by the collar and like drags it into the passenger seat of his car. So clearly he didn't go and get the cages that the lady said he was getting. Anyway, so yeah, he drags it into the car. And then I grab the other one, kind of shove it up in there, close the door, and he's like, all right, thank you. And he just gets in his car and drives off. And yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So pretty much the lady said that like since there was the veterinarian number and the tag on there, that in the morning they'll go to the vet's place or whatever, and then the vets will call, and pretty much just like once they get a hold of the vet, they can find out who the owners are based on the dogs, and they can go home. Now, maybe it could have been an inconvenience for the people. Maybe the dogs could have run back to the house and all that stuff. But in my eyes, I think it was safer to do what I did, even though it may be an inconvenience for the people in the morning or what have you. But I think they would be a lot happier with their dogs both alive on Christmas Day than possibly run over or something even worse with the dogs plus whatever. But it's like, you gotta think, like, you can't let your dogs be running around out in the middle of the night. I don't care, like, if you're out in the middle of the country and it's normal. Like, people are driving through every once in a while, and it could cause a really bad accident. So you really gotta watch out for that kind of stuff. Anyways, I start driving, heading toward my sister's. It's about 2 hours from there, from where I found the dogs. I was still 2 hours away, and I'm driving along. A little side note to the story. So I had to backtrack a little bit, then redo it. Passed by where I had found the dogs, and I kept going. And just a little side story, I mentioned it in yesterday's episode quickly, because I did get a letter from the DMV recently for my speeding ticket that happened when I was out in Texas. I got a point on my license for it, which I find very odd, as I paid it off immediately. It was only 10 miles over. It was 4 in the morning on Christmas Eve. You think they give you a little leeway, but no. But yeah, so on that trip, it's funny because I got pulled over so many times with the California license plate. You really have a target on your back because California's just kind of known for driving faster, and some people just don't like our views on like the world. Even though like I may agree with a lot of stuff that like they agree with, they still think you're one of those people that's like the crazy hippie stoner, whatever you want to call it, kind of person who's like all about nature. I don't know how you want to call it, but you know what I mean. Just like the over stereotyped California is like what you get no matter what, if you have one of those plates. So yeah, like the freeways, like I said, are 75, 80 miles an hour, and I'm going, and you hit these little towns and it immediately drops down to 55, 35 miles an hour. And the cop that pulled me over in this little town was like super far back before his lights even came on. And I was coming to a stop at a stoplight. And then he pulled up behind me, and then I got pulled over. Which I don't know. I didn't really say, I didn't backtalk or anything. He just took my stuff, came up, was like, all right, here's your ticket. And that was it. And then on the way home, I was more near Marfa, Texas. It was West Texas. I was looking at all the No Country for Old Men filming locations. I have a video on that if you want to check that out on this YouTube. And yeah, there was a cop who had someone pulled over when I was coming toward this little town, and this is the daytime now. And there was also a cop in front of me, I noticed, driving in front of me, and he slightly pulled off to the right, and then I just passed him, and I'm making sure I'm going the speed limit because there's all these cops around, and I've already dealt with it once. And they pulled me over for going like 3 or 4 miles over the speed limit. Again, California license plate does not help you in other states at all. And I pretty much explained why I was there. I'm checking out the filming locations for No Country for Old Men. And it's a small town, so obviously not a lot of stuff happens there. So that's like the biggest thing that's probably happened there. Even though it was back in like 2007, and it's like 2018 at this point. And now it's 2019. But yeah, they were just like, once I kind of knew what I was doing there and all that, and knew I wasn't like someone bad or something like that, I just got a warning, got let off. Continued on my journey, checked out the No Country for Old Men stuff, and then a day or two later, I'm driving all the way home, and I'm in New Mexico, I believe, and I'm driving along the freeway, just kind of going with the pace of, the rest of the traffic. So I'm going about 90. The speed limit's about 75, maybe lower than that. I don't really know, but get pulled over yet again. And this time, the cop makes me get all the way out of my car and walk over to his area. And so he's doing all this stuff. And he pretty much is like, all right, it's pretty close to your birthday. So I'm going to give you a break here and let you, off on, I'm not going to give you a ticket today, pretty much is what happened. So yeah, it was a crazy trip. But yeah, definitely saving those dogs and running into that super redneck guy who came and picked them up was a very interesting part of the trip, very memorable, and that's why I'm telling it today. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that story. I have a bunch of other ones of these on this YouTube, so if you want, go check out any of those. This has been another episode of Stories with Dan. This is episode 7. Saving dogs in Texas is what I'll probably call it. So yeah, thanks for listening, and go check out all the other videos I have on my YouTube, and I'll see you later.
If this is my reward for being in love with you,